Welcome to the Diversity Report podcasts, where we interview today's movers and shakers and diverse change makers. I'm your podcast host, Deborah Levine, editor of the American Diversity Report. And with me today is Dr. Elwood Watson, a professor of history, African American studies, and gender studies at East Tennessee State University. Welcome, Elwood.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It was wonderful to see you at the recent Diversity Conference at the University of Tennessee here in Chattanooga, and now we just push on.
Indeed.
So why don't we start off and let the audience know a little bit about you and tell us how you got involved in the studies of African American culture and gender studies that you take on.
Well, as you earlier stated, Deborah, I am a professor of history, African American studies, and gender studies at East Tennessee State University, which is located in Johnson City, Tennessee, which is eastern Tennessee, not far from the North Carolina and Virginia borders. It's a school of about 12,000 students, full-time and part-time as well. I've been there since 1997. And I've, found it a very, very interesting experience. And it's been pretty rewarding on several levels to work with so many types of students. I work with graduate students, undergraduate students, non-traditional students, and students across disciplines and colleges as well. I got involved in African American studies and gender studies because I've always had an interest in those two fields. African American studies first. Obviously, being African American, I was certainly curious about the culture and my ancestors and others of where my roots. The University of Delaware is where I attended and did my undergraduate work, and I became an African American studies minor with an American history major. My senior year at the University of Delaware, I took a course with a professor named Ann Boylan, who has since retired, and became very interested in gender studies and gender and women's history. And so she was kind of the impetus for me getting involved in gender history. But it was an interesting time because this was like the fall of 1989, early 1990, where gender studies was finally beginning to, most schools began to establish gender studies, if not departments, at least they had programs by that time. By the 1990s is where in the early 2000s is where you begin to see a lot of gender studies departments. African American studies departments had been around more frequently. You started a lot of schools that had programs, but departments for African American studies started a little earlier. And now, in 2017, it's not unusual to see a number of universities that have Department of Gender, Sexuality Studies, and Gender Studies and the like. I was able to integrate them together because race and gender, as Paula Giddings, distinguished scholar, who's at Smith College, in her famous book, The Intersection of Race and Gender, that's where I saw how both gender and race impact our society on a number of levels. And that I was able to utilize those skills in the books that I've written and the scholarships that I pursue, the courses I teach, and they're pretty much inseparable, particularly when it relates to women of color and people of color. The intersection of race and gender is paramount.
When you teach, are you teaching those topics together, or do you teach separate courses on African American history and on gender?
Sometimes they're separate, but the topics of gender and race certainly intersect within the course. Obviously, if I'm doing a course on Black women or Black feminism, by its very nature, the intersection of race and gender is going to be there.
Right.
Or a course on women's studies. So, in many cases, I think in many ways they're inseparable. So, no matter if the course is even on masculinity, the fact is gender is going to come in there on some level. Women's studies, or even race, or region, pop culture. I think my work is extremely interdisciplinary. That word is thrown around a lot, but for some people, but my work is classic, what you would call classic interdisciplinary work, scholarship.
And what do you hope that your students come away from your classes with?
I hope they come away with an awareness. They don't see things as black and white as they may have came in as they did as before they took the class. I think with many students, particularly in students areas that are largely homogeneous like East Tennessee, a lot of students come to college with preconceived notions and preconceived stereotypes that are largely deeply embedded in them by their families, the culture around them, the environment around them. And I'd like them to challenge the cognitive process that usually they've been pretty much indoctrinated with before they arrive on campus. Not all students, but I do think many do come to college with preconceived stereotypes, and some of them are very, very, very negative. Some are a little more enlightened than others, but I try to help them dispel previous preconceived notions and let them know that there are multiple ways of looking at a problem and multiple ways of looking at a society. And as I said earlier, not everything is black and white as they have been led to believe.
When you taught at this recent UTC Diversity Conference, what was that like?
It was very enjoyable. I had a really good turnout for my session, and my particular session was diversity in the classroom. And I had several examples of how diversity should be implemented. I think you have to be accepting of obviously gender diversity, racial diversity, age diversity, remind us of class diversity, regional diversity, sexuality when it comes to diversity. Those are the topics we pretty much looked into and discussed. And the majority of people in the class, in the workshop, were very receptive to the points that I laid out as well. And they were, I think the diversity, and it's important to realize diversity, while many of us look at diversity, I think we think it primarily of race. Race is certainly a crucial part of diversity, but diversity is also age, region, class, religion, sexuality, physical ability. I mean, so diversity encompasses many, many, many aspects of our lives as human beings.
The diversity terminology today has become quite controversial. Did you encounter, or do you encounter, students who are not invested in diversity and feel that it is not relevant?
Yes, I mean, of course, you get students. You also get some faculty and adults. I mean, people who administrators, faculty, and others who are somewhat skeptical of diversity. They're resistant to it. They feel that it's counterproductive. I think they're wrong on all those counts. They just don't see it as affecting them, and they see it as, some unfortunately see it as a divisive policy as opposed to something that will unite us together. I constantly reinforce them that diversity, the old saying, diversity is our strength. Some people laugh at that and ridicule that. But the reality is diversity is our strength. One of the reasons I would say America as a nation has been so successful and prosperous as a nation, given its very, very young history, is because of the diversity and our diversity as a group of people, religious diversity, racial diversity, and other forms of diversity. I think that is what has made our nation so strong. I think, homogeneous societies by and large can prosper for a while, but in many ways they falter because they are resistant to any type of ideas, and they are not able to change with the time. We're getting more and more global every day in our society, so I think it's just imperative that the more diverse your society is, the more likely it is to succeed. And I think that is one of the reasons why the United States within itself has been so successful. There are people who are trying to counter that, obviously, currently in politics, and others who think nationalism is the way to go, and that's the most effective way for America to move forward. I would definitely disagree. But I think, yes, that diversity is important. It's our strength. And I certainly try to reiterate that in my classes and provide specific and concrete examples as to why that is in fact the case.
Can you share some of those examples with us now?
Yes. I say, look at, for example, our music in the United States. I say, look at the cuisine, look at our restaurants, look at our music. I think look at our popular culture. I look at our literature. I say, look at the America, look at the different regions. I mean, look at Southern literature. Look at there's New England, there's North New England literature, there's Western literature. I mean, I look at our, look how many aspects have been brought to American society. Look at the types of music that we have, in our culture. Look at how our business structures are put together, because diversity, they've done studies that show diverse workforces are certainly the ones who are more likely to be successful. In a corporation, for example, if you have a diverse work team, particularly if you're trying to sell a product, it's going to make sense to me in a capitalist society, you should want as many people buying your product as possible. If you've got people who come in from different perspectives, they know their communities, they know their audience, and they're able to probably provide, they are able to communicate effectively with that group without necessarily alienating or offending it. A good example of the lack of diversity was the Pepsi ad that took place earlier this year with Kendall Jenner. They came to the realization there were no people of color or Black people or Latino people within the room when those commercials were made. I don't think that people at Pepsi had any malicious intent, but it was a very offensive commercial because it was trying to trivialize not trivialize. I think their intentions were not to do that, but the commercial in and of itself ended up trivializing, police brutality, law enforcement, and it was very, very problematic on many levels. And quite frankly, it got criticism from both the left and the right for varied reasons. But that was a good example. If there had been people of color in the room, that probably would not have happened. And I think they would have, been more said, this is probably not the way to go with this commercial. This could be, even Martin Luther King's daughter, Yolanda, weighed in on the controversy as well. As well. So it was really, really a bad move on their part. And they decided they admitted that they made a mistake and they stopped all future commercials, so that the whole advertising, the whole thing, all the future commercials and everything else were canceled. So they decided not to roll out any other commercials because no telling what the other ones were like as well. But that was a good example of a lack of diversity in corporate America. And this day and time in a global society can be can cost you quite a bit. So it's a very, very crucial that we, have a diverse society. College campuses where I teach is another example of diversity and the importance of diversity. You learn from different people of different colleges, different backgrounds, and different ideas. Doesn't mean all people of a certain group are monolithic. No, not all Black people are monolithic. Not all white people are monolithic. Not all Muslims are monolithic. Not all Jewish people are monolithic. Not all Catholics are monolithic. The point is, but there are certain things within groups of people, certain experiences primarily, or certain basic customs and mores that they can provide and exchange ideas with each other, and that's where a college campus is supposed to be. Students are richer for that. We live in, for the most part, very homogeneous communities before we enter college, and unfortunately, for the most part, we try to return to very homogeneous communities once we leave college. And I think college is one of the major times where you're able, and some workplaces are the exception, but it's a very, very crucial time of your life for most people in the early 20s, late teens, early 20s, to get those experiences and learn diverse ideas and learn that how other people function and learn to accept, or at least at the very least, acknowledge other viewpoints. And I think that's why diversity keeps the world going around. And I'd give a more specific example. Let's say we all have diverse taste, we all have diverse interests, we all have diverse ideas. That has definitely kept the world going around, specifically in the sense that, let's say we all had the same capacity, let's say we all had the same ability, and we want to be medical doctors. Okay, there'll be nobody teaching kids in school. There will be nobody painting. There will be nobody playing sports. There'll be nobody recording music, or vice versa. Everybody said, I just want to be an elementary school teacher. Well, there'll be nobody taking care of the sick. There'll be nobody, protecting people from legal issues. There'll be nobody doing anything. The world would cease to exist if we did not have diverse ideas, diverse interests. Diversity keeps the world going around, literally.
What do you see happening in the next, say, 5 years, both on campus and in American culture in general? We seem to be in such a changing environment. A lot of people don't know what to make of it.
I think we're going to see America's been through a lot of crises, and as a historian, I can attest to this fact. America's been through crises that are worse than we've been through right now. Trust me, the Civil War and a lot of dynamics, the Great Depression. So America's been through a lot of, it's a very resilient nation. America knows what adversity is. I'm an optimist on some level. I think things will get better. I think as the nation is getting more diverse and pluralistic every day, demographics are showing that. But I think that we run through rough patches, but we manage to come out of them and we move on. And I think that I put a lot of hope in our young people. I think I put a lot of hope in our young people. I put a lot of faith in Americans in general. I think most Americans are of goodwill, and I think most Americans do want to see the nation prosper, and I think they want to treat other people as human beings. And I think they realize that the nation will prosper if we all work together. So I think they'll see things better. I think there's rough patches along the way, and we're going to always have a segment of society who is resistant toward any type of, multiculturalism or diversity, and will fight as hard as they can to maintain the past, or certainly ideas that they feel are beneficial to them or people like them. But by and large, I think the vast majority of Americans are of goodwill, and I think that we'll see the nation move forward. So if I'm answering your question, I would say I'm more positive about the future of America than negative.
And what are your plans for the next few years? Do you have something special in the works?
I'm working on a couple of manuscripts right now. One looks at race and contemporary America. Speaking of race, a couple of essays, which will be published by Intellect Books, which is a division of the University of Chicago Press. That should be scheduled for publication next fall of 2018. I'm also working on I'll be working on next year as well. I interviewed a group of men of Generation X, which is a group of those of us in Americans who are those people who were born between 1965 and 1979. That's considered my generation. And I interviewed about 24 men from various backgrounds and walks of life, and I plan on writing a monograph on them. There was some very revealing and very, very introspective interviews there. So that'll be another monograph, which probably would be published in sometime in 2019. And working on some essays on masculinity in the 21st century. So I'll keep these next couple of years just trying to get a couple more books out, and I'll keep myself pretty busy on that front, and teaching, and hopefully giving talks here and there. So you're contributing to academic life, and trying to make contributions to the large society in a way I know how, which is from an academic and scholarly perspective.
The topic of masculinity is intriguing. Many people think gender studies specifically refers to women's studies. Tell us a little bit about your take on the masculinity aspect of it.
Yes, I started off primarily looking at men's studies is more recent than women's studies. Men's studies became it still doesn't have the same level of visibility that women's studies does on many college campuses. Masculinity is really, I would say, over the past 10 years, 10 years has, over the past decade, has really begun to emerge into the mainstream. You have websites like the Good Men Project, you have magazines like Men's Health and others who have been very instrumental in promoting masculine. There are a number of men's websites now called stand.com and XY, and as I said, look at masculinity more in depth. I found obviously being a male, I was very curious about studies on men and why were there not more men's studies courses, and why were there not more men's studies programs on college camps or the larger society, because men as a general have always been more, or at least that's been the narrative, that men are more likely to be isolated and are not as willing to be as communicative with each other as women. And I think masculinity within itself, what I've come across in study, that many men are open. I think many men are reluctant to be as open with each other because society has placed limitations on men. Men are supposed to be stoic, and you're not supposed to show your emotions. You're not supposed to expose your feelings, whereas women are given much more of a license to do so. And because of that, I think that had a lot to do with the reason why men's studies was not as open. I think a lot of people were suspect about men's studies, and why would I need to study about what to be a man? Because I think a lot of men in particular feel, well, I know I'm a man, so I don't have to study about what I am, who I am as well. So, and I think they're wrong, but I think in many ways that was one of the reasons why men's studies was unable to do that. But men's studies is very fascinating. There's a psychology of men. There are a number of journals out there, the Journal of Men's Studies, and just talking with men, and my scholarship I've been able to do, I feel in the columns I've written are looking. I think it's a very, very it's becoming a very, very formidable aspect of studies, whether it's in journalism, whether it's in academia, or wherever the entity is at that particular time. But I think men's studies is very, very interesting, and I found it certainly a fascinating field of study. And I think it will, as it's moving along, I think it'll be it'll be firmly etched in academia within the next decade and other aspects of society as well, just like gender studies in general.
So do you have some words of advice for a young man today coming onto the campus?
Yes, I would say young men coming onto the campus. I think men today, young men today in particular, are facing a lot of problems. As far as when I say problems, I mean issues in the sense that a lot of young men come to campus and they're not quite sure what it is to be a young man. I think they feel that they have to behave in a certain manner, and this is what makes them masculine. I think I think there's peer pressure. I think they feel they have to be, men in general, I think, are under a lot of pressure today. But for young men entering college campus, I would say, be yourself. Don't be afraid to fall down. I mean, at the in the figurative sense, or even literal sense. But I think that don't be afraid to who you are. You got to do what's best for you. And I think it's important, truth, be your authentic self. And if that's, being a sensitive person, that's good. If it means being, whatever, but you have to be who you are. And I think in the long run, you'll be much healthier and happier, because I think too many men, try to subscribe to these grandiose and unrealistic expectations in life. And at 19, I think that's a very heavy burden, 18, 19, to put on a men in their late teens and early 20s to be a Superman of all sorts. And no man of any age or any woman of any age is going to be that Superman. Nobody's perfect. The reality is you go have imperfections, and try to strive and attain to that goal, you're probably going to fall short and find yourself somewhat disappointed. So you have to find out what's best for you and say, this is the path I want to pursue. This is the path that's going to make me authentic. This is the path I'm more comfortable with. And I think you'll be much happier in the long run. And that's just not for men. That's for women. That's for anybody. But I think
exactly. Well, thank you. I think that's very wise words. Is there anything else that you'd like to add to this that we haven't mentioned yet?
I think that I feel like if anybody's interested in who I am or more about my work, you certainly can go to my web. I don't have a webpage, but Elwood Watson. You can look at the columns I've written on various aspects, whether it's race, gender. I write for Huffington Post, as you well know, and I write for the Good Men Project. I write for a number of websites, so you can Google my name and find out a lot more about me. You can go to Amazon and look at some of the books that I have published. So I mean, if anybody's more curious about who I am and my work, that's how you can contact me. And certainly you can contact me at East Tennessee State University. Just go to the website and find out where my contact information is there as well. And I would be happy to correspond with you.
Well, excellent. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing how your upcoming books do, and I hope you'll share them with me. And we'll talk again, and you can share them with our audience, okay?
I would be glad to.
Great. Well, thank you again, and thank you, audience, for tuning in once again to the American Diversity Report podcasts. We'll be talking to you soon again. Thanks.